So I was fighting my problem the other day. I got this weird, like, staticky thing that appears randomly. Like if my monitors change color or something like that, all of a sudden I get a bzzzt, and it's like, where is that coming from? And I realized that, even with my little like nuanced like issue, my audio still kicks the crap out of most anybody else's. And I decided it deserved its own podcast episode because I think people underestimate the importance of a great audio setup.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
I would agree.
I had a video out there for a while. I think you still get it, but it's basically comes down to, you can have the worst video ever. It can be chunky. It can be like
Mhm.
off color. You can be even slightly off center, things like that. But if your audio sucks, people will just stop listening.
They
Uh,
do.
that's
They
and
do.
that's a kind of a cardinal rule. Like you can hear me right now, and I sound great because I've got a decent balance set up for my voice. I was gonna try to flip over to one of my backup microphones, which just, I mean, it's still better than most people's out there, but it sounds like I'm a million miles away, and it just lacks all that inflection.
Yep.
But as much as I know about audio, Skip is kind of the real audio geek here, and so he's got his whole setup. And so we kind of have this combating like who's got the better setup. Now, I think Skip sounds a little tinny and echoey,
Yeah. Well, so
but
here's the difference. So Skip is just ridiculously cheap. Uh, and it gets really sad sometimes. And so my audio was really set up from a home music studio, a really really small one, just to meant to fulfill a practice need. And then several years ago, when we started doing all this, I knew what I needed, and I looked over there like, well, shoot, I've got a bunch of this laying around now. When I say cheap, I mean I've got a really entry level mixer. I've got some basic microphones. I actually use two so that I can get a little bit of depth to some of the things that I'm doing. But other than that, it's a really really simple setup. And I think Adam has spent a bit more on his, so
just a little.
there is some value in here in what he spent. But at the end of the day, our audio comes over clear, clean. There's plenty of presence to it. That's kind of the musical term that we hear lots of times. And in doing so, you are able to engage with people better. We spend all of our days on Zoom calls, and we'll get people connecting that have great audio and those that are just using whatever they have available, and the difference is so profound between the two. And especially we'll see it in team environments, and you'll get someone who is actually the champion, maybe the owner of an organization, and they're joining remotely or whatever, and they're just joining via phone or something, and their contributions to our engagements are hampered by the fact that their audio cuts in and out, that there's background noises. There's just so many things that aren't very personable in that call. And overall, it does limit their effectiveness in these engagements.
Yeah, and you got to remember that people are judging you based upon what they hear.
Yeah.
The most rational level human being that has no biases on the planet will still think like, okay, what did they actually say? What did they actually mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't quite catch that.
They cut
And
out. Did I
so,
miss something? That's
yeah, yeah.
that happens.
And having those voice inflections, being able to hear that roundness or that quality or that presence, as Skip calls it, helps convince people that you are genuine in what you're saying, or the little nuances in how you said something gives them confidence. And that's what your microphone does for you. And I cannot stress it enough. Like, you, I'll link the video. So those of you watching this on YouTube, I'll try to put it below and link to where I did the 4 different webcams I had, and I did 4 different microphones, if I remember right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I flip between them, and you can tell a difference. You can stand listening to me, as annoying as I am, at least
Mhm.
when I have a really crappy video and I have excellent audio. It's something you can listen to. We listen to radio all the time, and we prefer it in some situations because the presenter sounds genuine. Now you go onto that
Mhm.
crappy YouTube video where somebody sounds like they're a million miles away, you're gonna tune out in about 30 seconds. And
They are, and that
that's just
happens a
nature.
lot. And now your audio doesn't have to be perfect. Every once in a while, I'm living in Texas, and everything's bigger in Texas, right? That includes the yards, right? So there's always somebody around me mowing their yard because it's got to be done, right? And every once in a while, we'll have something going on, and you can actually hear the lawnmower or the leaf blower from my
Turn
neighbor
that gain down.
but it's not bad. It's personal. We've got everyone's working from home, or a lot of people are, and so you'll get dogs or kids in the background, and people, to be honest, they really don't like that. As long as it's not overpowering, it's a personal touch. And so you may have some challenges in especially if you're doing a work from home, you may have some challenges there, but as long as your audio is clear and understandable, it's really going to cover up a lot of those other issues that might be a bigger problem. I mean, if I had a really
Like your
crappy
personality.
audio, yeah, you know, if I had a really crappy audio and we had to listen to the leaf blower going next door, people are just going to go, well, maybe you can send that to me in an email or something. They're just going to want to tune out. But with the leaf blower going, it's just actually, I don't know. It doesn't overpower. It's something small. People can laugh about it, and I can keep on with the conversation that I'm trying to have with our members, and that's the most important thing. So
Yeah,
it's a well-rounded environment that you need to shoot for.
what kills me is I'll watch these guys and girls walk around with their $3,000 laptops or their $2,500 laptops. They had to have the i7 processor. They had to
Yep.
have the 32 gigs of memory because there might be this one situation where they needed it.
Yep.
And then they spend 6 hours a day on web calls and they sound like crap.
Yes.
Like your
Yep.
phone sounds better and it still sounds like crap compared to like a decent setup. Spending a couple $100 on a decent setup will make all the difference in the world. And
Absolutely.
you can have that i7 processor with 32 gigs of RAM that you might use once a year for something intense, or
Mhm.
you could buy a simpler laptop and spend in a decent like Logitech Brio
Yep.
camera or a decent Blue Snowball microphone that makes you sound amazing no matter where you are.
Yep.
Or get
And,
yourself a
and
nice little
and just
headset with a boom on it so that you can be in that coffee shop and having a good conversation.
yeah, and just quick technical stuff. If you're using the built-in microphone in your laptop or the built-in microphone in an external webcam, your
You.
audio sounds bad. I just tell you straight out, your
That's
audio
like
sounds bad.
drinking hotel coffee, you know? It's like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Or walking into your workplace where they haven't washed the coffee in like 16 years.
We're supposed to
And
season it, right?
what are you getting out of there? We don't know. Has
Mm,
anybody ever sabotaged this thing? We don't know, but you're gonna get a pot of coffee, I think.
yeah.
You know, you're taking the defaults, you're taking the bare minimum that somebody decided to put into this laptop. And so when I talk about audio, listen to my voice. This is barely edited, people. This is not me going through some $10,000 post processing. There's no Adobe Audition here. I essentially use Audacity to cut some things out, like coughs and stuff, as best I can. I don't get them all, but then I submit it up to Anchor and let it go out. It's not a lot of post processing. And this is how I sound when I have live calls with people when I'm on webinars. If you look at any of our community updates, I do zero processing on our community updates.
Yep.
And the beauty is you just sound like a human being. If you're going to spend all your time on this, you might as well sound good. You'll spend $10,000 or $2,000 on clothes to $10,000 on clothes, depending on how crazy you are. But you have a substantial amount of money invested in your clothes. Guess
Yep.
what, people? You're on Zoom. You don't need to buy pants anymore. So take that cost savings and move it into your microphone because that's what matters.
Yep.
And I mean that in a little bit tongue in cheek, but I look at my setup here and I've built this over years. I had to learn a lot. I bought the wrong microphone. I got a boom mic, so I wanted to be off the screen for a while. Then I realized that people didn't care if the microphone was on screen.
Yep.
So I got myself a Shure SM7B. Now that's a decently expensive microphone, but to the audio people, they're like, "Why do you buy that cheap microphone?" I'm like, "Look, this thing
Yeah,
costs like
I won't
400
even
bucks.
tell them what I
That
bought.
that
I'll
was
get
that was a
I'll get
lot of
drummed out.
pain to click on that buy button."
Yep.
But an audiophile would say, "Oh, that's a cheap microphone. Don't get that."
Yep.
You know what? That screw you. This sounds great. I love this microphone, and you can get some great condenser mics that are like $100. Like, what is the Skip? You know what it is? It's the little metallic, the
Yeah,
Shure.
they call them pencil mics, and SM57s. Sometimes not the Bs that you have. Samsung makes one. There's a bunch of them out there, and so I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Maybe I'll get beat up for it in the comments, but I going down the cheap route have had really good luck with Behringer stuff.
Yeah.
All the musicians out there, they're going to roll their eyes or they go, yeah, yeah, I know. So I've gone and again, it was a musical setup that I repurposed, but it works great. I mean, it's not a pro recording studio, but it sounds really good. So
No.
I've got this example that this happened a couple of years ago, right after some all the lockdown stuff started, and more people were doing this, and we really saw, some of the worst setups and all that.
Truly awful.
Some of them were really bad. So we had this one guy join one of our calls, and he was the owner of a company. And I'm not sure where he was at. I got a feeling he was with some family, but I remember he joined the call before he sat down. So he must have clicked and then, jumped off the screen to grab coffee or something. And so I'm looking at what I swear was my grandmother's living room. All right. I mean, it had little doilies on the back of the seats, and I don't know. It just, maybe I'm being harsh here. Just that was the view I had, but I really got this image of my grandmother's living room. But when this guy sat down, he also brought a mic over in front of him. Had one on a little extension arm, and he brought it in, and he had this warm, deep sound that came through, and he was able to communicate without any fancy background stuff. I mean, his video was just normal, but the audio was off the charts great, and it drastically impacted the call. And
Yes.
so, I think if you have to look at any of your work from home settings, if you want to do the green screen stuff, if you're trying to use, the built-in filters and all this, and you need a better camera, you need more processing, you need software like OBS. I mean, there's all these other things that you can bring in, but start with a good audio setup. You
Yes.
get audio in
Start with
place,
audio.
and everything is a building block on top of that.
If you take nothing else from this podcast, start with audio. I watch so many of you use that stupid Zoom virtual background. You try to tweak it to
Mm-hmm.
make it look just right. It's still gonna look crappy, people. It's a virtual background.
Yep.
If you look at mine, look at Skip's. Like, we have pretty good setups. Mine is a little bit better because I've spent a lot more time, and I've got this nice static office. Skip's got a beautiful green screen, and we have worked on our lighting, our 3-point lighting scenes, and we've got all this stuff. And I make my backgrounds based upon vacations I've had,
Yeah.
and so people can look and see back there. If you don't like what I'm saying, just watch my background, see if you can find something interesting. My new set of backgrounds will be coming up soon, Skip. I made a new
Oh,
set
okay.
this weekend.
All right. It's like the
So,
vacation
but
pictures. Everybody's waiting to see
it's a
those.
talking point. But I invested in building my microphone setup. My video setup is cool, but my video setup is stupid cheap. You want to know how to make my video stuff? Feel free to reach out to me. It's really, really cheap. The microphone setup I have, I mean, let's walk through it so people can know. I've got a Shure SM7B lined into a Rode Procaster, Rodecaster Pro, sorry.
There you go.
So Shure SM7B going into a Rodecaster Pro, which actually has a cloud lifter before you get to my Rodecaster Pro, and that pipes out to my computer through USB.
Mm.
And that is my audio to get to you. The beauty is it's condenser mic. I can throw any mic I want on here into this setup because it's just, what is it? XLR? What's the
Yep.
name of the?
Yep. That's it.
I don't know much about audio. Skip does. XLR jack, and I can put any microphone on here, and I can sound pretty good. Now, condenser mics, I think, sound the best. I don't know why. Some nerd out there can explain to you exactly how a condenser mic works and why it's better than a dynamic mic and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, you want to find something that makes your voice sound great without any post processing. so that you can talk clearly and smoothly with your audience.
Well,
And whether
yeah.
it's a sales call or you're trying to explain somebody a highly technical how to get through a firewall, it doesn't matter. As long as you sound good, you can explain any technique.
Yeah, and so and we're getting more and more, vested in this as we continue along. Even as people return to the offices, this work from home and virtual setting has, clearly come to stay in the marketplace. And it's not just joining meetings; it's growing into other things. So we're working with our marketing department the other day, and they wanted some more information, and they said, we get some of this on our calls. We have a weekly call with our marketing guys, and they said, "Hey, we need a little bit more context here. If you want to send us a really long email, that's fine." But they suggested, "Hey, if you want to explain this to us in a quick video, that would be fine as well." And so, great. I go out and use one of the video tools online. I create a short. It was like a 5-minute video, and I was able to talk about these ideas that we're trying to convey to them and the messaging that we're trying to deliver to people who are looking at our products. And when you get into those sort of areas where you're talking a little bit more than just technical stuff, it's more than a firewall setting or something yes or no answers. When you put these in there, you have the opportunity. When you do it in video, you have the opportunity to communicate more feeling, more value that's going on. There's inflections like Adam was talking about earlier, and you can say a lot more in a short video than you could in a 5-page email. So you can help yourself out in a lot of areas by embracing some of these elements and making them part of your everyday work life.
As a point in what we're saying here, I'm looking up on screen here, and Skip is frozen solid. His
Yep.
background is still doing great, but he is frozen solid. I didn't notice.
All right.
Why? Because his audio was smooth. I'm sitting here thinking about what he's saying. I'm looking at it, and then I'm looking at his webcam, and it's frozen solid. And it doesn't matter because his voice sounds great. And I hope, like, when we get to the YouTube, I'm putting this up there. I'm
All
I'm
right.
I'm keeping it
I
as
gotta
is.
fix
Skip
it while
with
we're doing
his,
this.
his body frozen. I'm throwing this on YouTube because it makes a great point. We did not plan this. Like, I don't think I've seen you frozen on a call in years, Skip. This is just great timing because even though everything's frozen, everything's stuck there, Skip is trying desperately to get this working again. It
I
doesn't matter
know.
because his
I
audio works.
know.
We can
Yep.
continue going. If his audio had crapped up, his audio started sounding staticky and started like going absolutely nuts, the call's done. It doesn't
Yes.
matter
Yep.
what you
Yep.
do,
That's
that
it.
call is done.
So
So,
yeah, and these are the things that we can get there. We can work around some of the video stuff. The things that happen in the background. Sometimes those can be a little maybe distracting or maybe a little hilarious. But if the audio doesn't make it, if the audio doesn't come through, then it's not going to go well for the conversation you're trying to have.
oh, definitely. I just think this is hilarious because we're sitting here and we're trying to do a podcast record. Oh, he's back.
I'm back.
We're sitting here trying to do a podcast recording. And yes, most of you out there are listening to this on your phones and going, oh, what's going on? Well, now you get to go check out our YouTube feed. We're going to watch the views spike on this particular episode because Skip is just frozen solid. No idea what's
Of
going
course,
on,
some
but we're
stupid look on
still
my
having
face.
a good podcast. We won't have to re-record this. We won't have to stop and redo this again. It'll go through. We'll upload it. The marketing people will write their copy edits from this, and it'll be good because the audio worked. And it cannot work in reverse. You can spend, like, I have a great video set. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've got a Camlink 4K. Those things are like $300 to buy. And then I have a Lumix GH4, which is another $800. And that all goes into my PC. And we won't talk about my liquid cooled PC so I can reduce fan noise.
Wow.
So what we have there is a really great video setup. But if my video camera was going and my audio stopped, webinar's over. We had to restart this podcast.
Yeah.
If the video craps out and my audio keeps going, we just keep going. Even if it was a webinar, I can still continue with my syllabus. I can still continue with my agenda, and everybody will patiently listen. Most of you have it minimized in the background, anyways, and you're like playing solitaire or
Yep.
Minesweeper or something. So
Minesweeper. What's
invest
that?
in your audio. Do yourself a favor. I would say if you really want to budget, carve out like I don't know, $1,000 and create yourself an audio setup. And the great thing about audio setups is they last a freaking lifetime.
Yeah, that's
Like
it.
your laptop will swap out every 3 to 4 years. Your audio equipment, that's 10, 20 years right there.
Yeah. Well, and so, again, here's the difference in Adam and I, $1,000, and tightwad Skip just goes, that's way too much. I mean, so a little bit of rundown on mine. I have, as I mentioned, I have two microphones. One's a cardioid and the other is a piezo dynamic. And both of those run into a really low end analog mixer over here on the right. And then rather than doing a digital input, I actually do the old school deal. I've got an analog, it's the aux cable sort of thing. And I run out of my soundboard into the onboard sound card
Oh, I remember those days.
yeah, on my PC. And at the end of the day, my setup, all in all that I have here, if you went out and bought it brand new, probably 150, 180 bucks. I don't know. You might need I have some snazzy little stands that I like that make it all work. But there's not a real high bar to get in this. You can go straight to some USB mics.
Yeah,
When
the
I
Blue
was living in
Snowball is fantastic. Don't get the
yeah.
Yeti necessarily. That thing will pick up a mouse fart in the next room. But the Blue Snowball for like what, $40? That
Yeah.
thing sounds great. I've done a lot of voiceover work with that when it comes to like Camtasia and doing some how-to videos. Fantastic. You can put it in your briefcase and take it anywhere.
We were living in two cities for a while, and so I had two complete setups. And rather than just repurchase everything, I went down another route and I used a USB mic. And so lost a few editing functions that I like, a little bit of control, but at the end of the day, it worked pretty well. There wasn't a drastic difference between what I call my full setup and my temporary setup, but it was just a USB mic. It's sitting over here on the shelf. It's not used anymore, but it was just USB straight into the board on my PC. I kept it a little off camera. It would sound better if I brought it on, but it was one of these. It's yellow and red. It's really it doesn't match our color scheme, so it looks cool, I think. But it was off camera,
I thought it looked cool.
and it worked. It worked really, really well. So it doesn't take much. You just need to be intentional about your audio setup. You don't have to spend a ton of time, energy, or money. You can if you want, and that will pay back. Again, the difference in Adam's audio and mine, I think the money that he spent on it is well spent. But I think the bar is very low
It is.
for a
It is.
great audio setup.
The only time you can tell a difference between a setup like yours and a setup like mine is when we are talking together like this. And you can
Mhm.
see there's a little difference in the quality,
Yep.
but when Skip's on a call with somebody else on a Zoom call, you can tell the other person has a horrible connection. I've seen those calls and stuff. It's like, wow, they sound awful. And Skip sounds great. And you just need to invest. Now, I say $1,000 just because I know you people out there. I know the people that are listening to this, and you'll drop $3,000 on a laptop. I know
Yeah,
you.
that's true. That's
I
true.
know you, and that you'll do that every 3, 4 years. You'll drop $1,000 on a phone,
Yeah.
and all these have minimal impact on your environment, but your audio has a substantial impact. Now, you can drop an easy $5,000 on an audio setup. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
Now, when I say my $400 mic, you're like, oh my gosh, but the audiophiles are like, really? That's it? That's all you're gonna
Yeah.
get?
That's the cheap
And
one.
there's some great people out there like Booth Junkie and people like that who do voiceover work and kind of walk
Mhm.
you through a poor man's setup on how to do things great. The nicer your microphone, the nicer your setup, the better you can block out extraneous sounds. You can make an amazing voice sound with just a cheap mic and a really, really quiet room that has a lot of pillows in it. Like people were
Mhm.
using their back closets for voiceover work because all the clothes in there. But in the end, just put some effort into it. You might have to listen to yourself on some audio recordings just to prove to yourself how crappy you sound. And when you
That
get
is the
that
trick. Yeah.
When you
Listen
get
to
that blue
yourself.
snowball microphone and you hear yourself for the first time, you're like, oh, that guy sounds nice. That lady, she's got a sultry voice.
There we
And
go.
now you're like, okay, I can sound like that, and it sounds so much better.
Yeah.
And so I highly recommend just spend some time and invest in something. Now, the beauty of a Rodecaster is because of the USB setup, you can plug into your laptop, you can plug into your PC, but it's not very mobile. The Blue Yeti stuff, the Blue Snowballs, variety of the other USB mics, you can plug those right into your laptop. You can fold them up and you can put them inside your case and you can take them wherever you want. Be in a hotel room and doing a podcast, meeting with a client, doing some sales, doing a voiceover for a demo video. You're trying to explain to a tech how to modify something on their PC. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. Just don't worry about your video. Once you have a nice audio setup, then
Start.
you can worry
Yes.
about your video. Then you
Start with
can
the
invest
audio.
in that.
Yeah.
But for
And
now, find a good mic.
yeah. And let me
And
throw
your
a quick
audio
resource out
sucks.
there. So if you just want to start, there's several places, Amazon, and all you can go, but you can kind of get the whole experience if you go out to sweetwater.com.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. So those guys have been around for a long time. All the musicians that are listening are going to know who those guys are. And like I said, there are other places out there that kind of can help you through. They've got the videos and the commentary on that and help you find something that fits your budget and fits the needs that you're trying to address. But there are a lot of resources out there. It's very commonplace. And I do think it's going to be a differentiator in a lot of our virtual sessions, whatever that looks like. Again, making these short video clips, I think is going to become a more commonplace deal. But obviously, the meetings that we're in, and if you want to communicate, if you want to have good conversations with people, they're going to have to be able to understand you.
All right. That was great. I've done a number of videos on these. Again, I'm going to try to link them on the YouTube so that you guys can click over and see some of our great videos on how to set up an audio, how to set up video. But I really want people listening, like, invest in your audio now. I'm tired of hearing
Mhm.
crappy audio. I'm tired of going to crappy webinars. Just invest in your audio, improve my life, if anything else. Coming up, we got some great podcasts on why you are in tech, the importance of vacations, and then talking
That's a
about
good one
MSP
coming up.
culture and what that looks like and how to craft it into something a little bit more conducive to positive projects and working with clients.
All
Thanks,
right.
Skip, for coming on, and we'll see you
You bet.
next week.
See you.